Resources. Now, resources can be variety of aspects we can think. Can you work without a computer or an environment without people, without your store department, without your admin department, without your security? Can you work? There has to be environment also. On a church, you cannot play DJ. The environment is not like that, or it is not allowed. So the second planning task in estimation for the of the resources for software development effort is all about resources. So there are three major categories of software engineering resources. You see this resource pyramid, the top one is people, you, me, and the components. Components are basically those which can be easily used, reusable, and finally the development environment. You need work to work with an infrastructure, with hardware, with software. There are so many things which people and the other aspect require. So each resource is specified with 4 characteristics. First, what is the description of the resource? Even people, hardware, components. The statement of availability, when the component will be available, when we are going to hire people for this work, and time when the resources will be required, and for what time they are required, duration of time that the resources will be applied. For example, we need here for this much time. So this is a time window. So the last 2 characteristics which we just saw, this can be viewed as a time window. And availability of resource for this particular time window must be established as a planner or as a manager at the earliest practical time. This is required. Okay, before we go ahead, let me just show you what exactly these means to just revise. In a project, we need people, environment, reusable software. People, how many people are there, what skill set they have, which location they are placed, environment, hardware, software, and the other resources, and then the reusable software like the codes, components. We'll just talk about that. So now here the planner will begin by evaluating software scope, and depending upon the scope, how many people with what kind of skills we require. How many people will be done only after effort estimation. So both the organizational position, it can be manager, it can be senior software engineer, and we need this specialist also. For example, some telecommunication people, the database, client server, FPGA or GIS person, we always need them for different kind of activity, specialized activity. Because software are made for a certain field, for some certain stakeholder. If you have a small project, it can be done by one person in few person months. Single individual can do, we are not talking about that right now. For moderate to large product, the software team may be geographically dispersed, one in LA, one in Nigeria, one in India. So the location of each human resource has to be specified. And people required can only be found or determined only after we estimate the development effort. For example, the person month. Person month means one person in 1 month, how much work he does. See, in the kilogram for weight, the meter for distance, length, that is the same way effort, the unit is person month. For the effort, the unit is person month. Reusable software components or reusable software resources. Now we are talking about, say, e-commerce website you are making. There's a payment gateway, there'll be a calendar. So there are so many part of that particular software or the app. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. So component-based software engineering, it emphasizes the reusability. That is, there are software building blocks. You can create and they can reuse it again and again. If the technology is stable and you already tested it, so these components must be, first of all, cataloged, because you need to use it. So for easy reference, then for easy application or applying it in your software project, there has to be some standardization. And of course, the validation, because you are going to integrate it. It has to be properly validated and verified and tested. So Bannerton suggests 4 software resource categories to be considered as the planning will proceed. I'm talking about the reusable software, the resources components. First is the off-the-shelf component. That is, you can just go to the third party, you can just buy it. Or if you have past project which is already there, all having all these properties which we just discussed, just you can use it. Then you can have the full experience components. We also call it the off-the-shelf as COTS component, off the shelf. Full experience component. If you have specification, design, code, and similar test data, you already have it existing, which is done already. You can just use it directly. Full experience component. If the project was successful, it is working, so you can directly use it rather than reinventing the wheel. Partial experience component means you already have certain specification, design, code, similar data, but you need certain modification changes until you can use it. And the new components are the components you have to make it from the scratch, or it is specifically for the need of the current project. So these are the 4 components, reusable software resources. Then comes the environmental resources. As I said, a DJ or disco has an environment. You will dance there. You will not pray there. So for making a software, you need an environment. You need certain inputs. You need certain support system. So the environment that support a software project, called as the software engineering environment, it incorporates the hardware and the software. You need the different support system. As I said, for a company, software company, you need administration and store department also. So hardware, software, tools. So hardware support tools, that is the software required to produce the work. Without software, hardware, how are you going to work? Okay, this is important. And we need to prescribe the time window also, whenever this hardware and software is required and when we are going to get it, whenever they are available, because until you get the proper support, how are you going to make the software project complete? Software team may require access to elements, because if some team is making something and you need it for your validation or for your, say, integration, then you have to wait for it. For example, here you see software for a robotic device may require a specific robot. For example, you see here a robotic welder as a part of the validation test step. So there is an interdependency. For that, resources, environmental resources, just say that you need an environment so that you can work properly. You don't need to wait endlessly, and you need to get support from the management.